Hi students, welcome back to geology. This is the last segment of this unit, which is Geologic Maps, looking at how maps can reveal rocks that are beneath us. So your pondering question for this segment is what information about the Earth's surface can't be learned from a satellite photo alone? So boots on the ground, what do we need in order to do the work that we do? All right, so looking at geologic maps, this map might look like a melted bag of Skittles to you, but to a geologist, they are seeing the, the pink, beautiful granitic rocks of Yosemite National Park. They're seeing some quaternary deposits in the yellow, and they use the legend, of course, that's there on the right to tell them what everything else is if they don't immediately know what those colors mean. So they depict rock units that are visible on the Earth's surface. So this isn't everything that's below the Earth's surface. This is what we can see. Their different colors are used to depict different rock formations or units, and they come together where those two colors meet are called contacts. So prior to having maps like these, one of the first maps ever produced was made in 1150 BC or 1150 BC in Central Eastern Egypt. And this is what we have left of it. Unfortunately, it's very old, very pieced together. They used color to depict the rocks. And like I said, this is the oldest known application of geologic mapping. And unfortunately, sometime in history, by about 1700s, mid 1700s, we lost color. They kind of forgot that we used the different colors to depict the different rock units that they were seeing. And so some French geologists produced this map. And this map showed chalk deposits in the French region. And in a single image, you can't really just immediately see what's happening. It's just all black and white, right? And so it makes it really hard to depict the geology, especially if it's really vast and changing a lot. Otherwise, you need a lot of labels to label each little section, which can be daunting. Okay, but by the 1800s, William Smith mapped Britain and depict way more than just one formation and included color. So we were back to color, which was amazing because it's really good at depicting the different rock units, and it's pleasing to the eye. I think everybody likes to see things in color more than black and white, which is why we've made color TVs and everything is in color these days. Is because it is a really good visual representation. He was a canal engineer, so he wasn't necessarily a trained geologist, but he mapped what he could find. He mapped some ocean critters, which are listed there. Trilobites are probably the most popular ones that he mapped. And this map summarizes years and years of boots on the ground field work. So he was not using satellite imagery, obviously, in 1800 to do this work. It was boots on the ground, mapping, hiking, walking around, writing things down in notebooks, and then creating this map. On a geologic map, a couple of things that you might find. Sometimes topographic maps are used as the base. So here in this example, if you look beneath the colors, you can see all of the little spaghetti lines that we've talked about so far. All of those contour lines in there are the topography, and that's a very helpful thing to have when you're a geologist looking at an area because sometimes you're out there in the field and you have the geologic map with you, and if the topography is on it for you, then you can kind of find the path of least resistance so that you're not hiking up a cliff, essentially. There's usually a scale. This one has the scale cut off. You might have a reference map, sometimes longitude and latitude, magnetic declination, we talked about in the last lecture. The distinct geologic units is the key component. And then the contacts, which are the lines between. If you're unsure as a geologist, you will make dashed lines, which is what is represented here. So it's kind of an unsure exactly where the two rocks change. And then there's sometimes symbols that show the orientation of the rock, which we'll dive way more into when we get to faults and folds, but we'll go over a little bit of that right now just to kind of get our feet wet. Okay, so structures are rocks and they don't always sit horizontal. Okay, things have happened to them. They've experienced some amount of stress, which could be from plate tectonics, earthquakes. All of this pushing and pulling can change the orientation of these rocks. And we depict that on our geologic maps. Okay, so this can be how steep the structure is. It might show which direction it's maybe tilted in. And so we call declination or strike and dip direction our orientation terms. Okay, so when a rock bed is oriented like this and it's kind of dipping into the landscape, we can measure the angle of that dip or that inclination, and that's our dip. And then our strike is the dip direction, which is going to be if you were facing the rocks that are tilted and they're like tilted towards you, it's to the right hand side, and that's our strike. And we use just a measurement of that direction, if that makes sense. So let's look at that a little bit more detail. So strike and dip is here, so it's showing you the right hand rule. You're looking towards the right, or if you put your hand down on the material that is dipping, it's your thumb that is pointing in the direction. So use your right hand and your thumb is pointing in the direction of strike. Okay, and you would get that measurement, and then you would get the dip measurement, which is the angle that it is tilted at. Right, so we express this so the strike is known as the horizontal, and then the vertical is the dip, and we express these, in degrees. And on your map, they would look like these little T's that are written here on the right hand side, and then the number there is the dip. So the strike direction is the orientation of the longer line, whichever direction that is, and it's a compass direction. And then the number there shows you the direction of the dip with the line, and then the angle of the dip, which is the number. Okay, and that can help us map things like faults and folds. And so these are what we call deformational structures. They are from tectonics and faulting. So where you have pressure, compression, whether it's tension or shear, all three of those can create different types of faults and different types of folds. Okay, and like I said, we'll get more into that with plate tectonics, but this is just getting you to understand that you can see these things based on your geologic map. All right, so on a map, you might see these kinds of symbols. We've already looked at the strike and dip symbol. You might see an axis of an anticline or a syncline labeled. They might have dashed lines for the contact or solid lines for the contact, depending on what they know. There might be faults labeled with the hanging wall or footwall noted, which direction is it moving. Lots of different things can be noted. So these are some of the common symbols that you might see. And then you're going to have an explanation. So this would be like your legend. So pretty much every map should have some sort of a legend. And on geologic maps, it's vital to understanding what the colors mean. And so for the more advanced geologic maps, we also have unit codes that are listed. So like this first one says SB, it's kind of hard to see. And then there's SS in here on the brown one. And it tells us that if you can't see which one's brown, you just use SS, and then you go to the legend or the explanation key. And then you can read what type of rock that is. Some of these explanations are going to be a lot longer than others, and it really just depends on the information that the map is trying to convey, how much information it wants to tell you. All right, so some final thoughts. This is your pondering question that I'm going to leave you with. What is one key difference between a topographic map and a geologic map? Okay, so why are they different? What makes them different? Think about that in a holistic fashion, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.